not just concentrating on people who are really interested about farming, you're now spreading your net.
Yeah, we've sort of realised that we only capture a certain demographic in the projects that we do, so there's a real need to engage with mainstream New Zealand, and at a high school level it's actually starting to develop resources that can be used in mainstream subjects, so like maths, English, science, economics, so that we can actually have that light bulb moment to a lot more people about our industry is actually quite interesting and has a really good career path.
So how do you, seriously, how do you get farming into those other subjects?
Yeah, we're lucky. We've got some funding through the Red Meat Profit Partnership to develop some resources into schools around the red meat industry. And so we're developing some resources that can be used by teachers straight away, like almost off the shelf. Teach a maths topic, so it could be statistics, for example. So we've developed a resource along with our educational partners around sheep genetics as a maths topic, and an assessment tool to go with it that can be assessed. And yes, trying to engage with some people that might not have thought about our industry at all before.
I'm sorry, but I just find that so amazing.
Yeah, no, it is quite a step change. And, you know, if we're going to fulfil the 50,000 new jobs in the industry by 2025 and replace the 225,000 that have left the industry by 2025, where are these new people going to come from? You know, our own constituency, the rural New Zealand people that do not just on-farm jobs, but, you know, the marketing, engineering, they're not going to come from the rural sector. We actually need to engage with urban, and part of that is through a secondary school strategy of broadening our base of people.
Because people think of agriculture as gumboots, don't they?
Yeah, and that's part of the problem. There is a perception problem that everyone on the show will tell you about every week. But the way we break that down is actually make it a lot more normalised. So actually saying in maths, here's an example of genetics, which is, you know, for a lot of people, quite interesting. And that might just make them think, oh, there actually is a place for me in this industry. It is a growing industry, literally and figuratively, and lots of good things happening.
So as far as somebody who's in a, say, Christchurch Boys or Christchurch Girls High, all of a sudden it becomes an option because they're seeing past the gumboot. Yeah,
exactly. And what we're trying to do is offer through our TNAG clubs, which is a junior young farmers club initiative that we've rolled out for the last 5 or 6 years into high schools. We've got an ambition of being in half the number of high schools, some of my pastoral support, you know, development side of things, leadership and all those things, within the next sort of 5 years. But if we can have curriculum material that supports that, then we actually widen our base of people.
So what's the uptake by the schools like?
So we're just starting the pilot program in for 2016. So we've got about 16 schools signed up. And that's going to be, you know, we need a few more than that, but we're on our targets for next year. A lot of them are going to be based in Canterbury, where we are, of course, which makes it a lot easier to administer the pilot.
Well, you've got to take that first step.
Yeah, you do. But we also do want some national coverage so that we can have some Hawke's Bay, we can have some Southland, etc. in there. That makes a real difference to our industry.
And so you've got people on the ground who are going to these schools?
Yeah, we've got a 7-member field team. So we divide the country into 7, and we have a person based in each. And some regions are a little bit more tricky than others. So we've got one based in Auckland City, for example. Reaching into Auckland schools, A, is really necessary, but B, it's not as simple as it sounds. A lot of schools that say, well, what would we want to know about agriculture for, because we're from Auckland? And that argument,
that is an Auckland saying, what do we want to know?
Yeah, but actually increasingly it's more and more important, and some schools are starting to get it. So we're starting to get our tentacles into certain schools. I mean, Mount Albert Grammar, for example, has a farm, a little demonstration farm on the school site. So, you know, there are ways and means.
And so what's your time frame to get these people, these city folk?
Yeah, it's not going to happen overnight, as I'm sure you can appreciate. So we've got a sort of a 5 to 10 year plan. So rolling out a pilot for one subject and one level. So the stats paper I just talked about, that is a level 2, so 6th form stats paper. We want to have all 3 levels of the senior secondary school covered, and as I say, in 3 or 4 subject areas. So that's going to take us probably 5 years to roll out. And if we can then attract other sub-industries, so, you know, the likes of horticulture, seafood, forestry, to sort of climb on board and broaden that, then, you know, the whole industry will benefit.
What sort of follow-up is going to be needed?
Yeah, quite a bit. So we're working with a company called Core Education to actually develop the resources. They've also got good engagement as a school to actually look at how teachers respond to resources and what we need to do in that space to make sure we're delivering exactly what's needed. We're also working with NZQA to make sure that what we actually are delivering can be measured, and measured easily on behalf of schools.
Because, I mean, to me, it's all very well for them to have an understanding, but somebody's going to have to try to close the sale to get them into rural education or rural engineering or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the TNAG Club part of it is so vital, is yes, you can teach them a subject that says, oh wow, primary industry, okay, but then a support mechanism to actually identify what it is, the right pathway for that student. So if you want to do an engineering degree, brilliant. Go and do an engineering degree, but think about the options of working for a milk factory, a Fonterra type company, or a meat processing plant that need engineers. If you're into marketing, brilliant, go and do marketing, but think of all the opportunities in terms of selling the New Zealand story through food products overseas. It's just opening those ideas up. So we're working with universities also in terms of trying to make their degrees relevant to what the market wants in terms of employment. So, 3/4 of all university students by the end of year 2 still have no plan on where they think they might be going. They just know what degree they're doing. So if we can contextualise that, then there's a real bonus. And one solution doesn't do it. You actually got to have that whole pipeline solution. And as you know, we start with 8-year-old children.
Yes, you do.
And the thing with agri kids, for that latter part of primary school, is to actually start to open up the brain to ideas rather than closing their options. Because by the time you get to third form or year 9,
thank you for saying third form there. I know what you're talking
my
about.
generation. But once you get to start of secondary school, your parents, your peers, your experience as a child start to pigeonhole you into a particular direction. So we've got to get you at primary school to make sure that you're actually keeping your options open.
So really what we need to do is just explain that, as you are doing, that there are a lot of options. So you can do law and specialise in rural contracts. Yeah,
exactly. But also it's actually really frightening that the new generation coming through have no understanding where food comes from. We talk about it a lot.
You're serious?
So we took a school group, it wasn't me personally, but we took a school group from Dunedin, year 10, so 4th form students, onto a dairy farm, and a lot of people had no idea that you had to either milk a female cow rather than a male cow. That actually milk comes from a cow was novel to some people.
Really?
So we've lost that IP of a generation ago where everybody, city or country, had a connection to farming. It's lost. So we've got to start with primary school kids to actually tell them about the food story.
I think we need everybody in every school to go onto the On the Land website.
Exactly.
But seriously, that's if you've got that level of ignorance out there. I had no idea that people in Dunedin, which is a rural city.
It is really. Yeah, it is a little bit frightening that we've lost that knowledge. The other thing too to remember is the industry is developing at such a rapid rate in terms of technology, is jobs in 10 to 20 years' time could be vastly different to jobs are today. So we're going to make sure that we keep really current with technology and things that are going to affect another category of people that are technology driven.
So you're making agriculture sexy?
That's the aim.
Terry, thank you very much indeed. We'll have more for you on the land in just a moment.